Hello again. My name is Tomoko Silva from Education USA. Welcome to Education USA webinar. It's about common application for teachers, counselors, and agents. Today we have two speakers. One Meredith from Common App and Karin from University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. So we have 15 minutes Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can ask directly on the 15 minutes after their presentation, or you can ask any questions anytime from the Q&A chat box. Other than that, we would like to start and then give the microphone to Meredith. Was it too quick?
Good morning, everyone. Shall I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please. I will stop mine.
Okay, here we go. It just says it's paused, so I'm going to try again.
Maybe we can share the screen from our side.
Sure, we can all, I don't know if Karen, I don't know if you want to try sharing. I don't know if you have the document open.
I don't have it open, but I can.
Let me see, I can try one more time. Thanks,
So
everyone.
while people are waiting, please think about your questions.
Mhm.
Okay, while we are waiting, I would like to introduce advisors from Korea. Minjae, if you don't mind, say hello. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Minjae. 감사합니다. And we have Lydia from
Hello
East Timor.
everyone.
Hi, thank you
Hello
so much.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for
you.
joining us.
Oh, yay, the
Okay, I
slides
got it.
up. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, Meredith, just tell me when you need me to move on to the next.
Thank you so much for sharing, and
Yes.
I'm glad we can work on this together. So, yeah, we'll start with introductions. Again, good morning. My name is Meredith Lombardi. I'm the Director of Education and Training at Common App, located in Northern Virginia, and really happy to be with you. Karen?
Yes. Hi. My name is Corinne Johnson. I am the International Admissions Counselor at the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. I work a lot with Education USA advisors, with our new incoming students through the application process, with agents. I've been doing this now for about 10 years. So thanks for having us. So today are going to talk about a little bit about the Common App in general, and then about the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, and then we will talk more about the student and recommender experience um, through the Common App, and then we'll go over some advising tools and resources, and then, as already mentioned, we will have time at the end for questions. So again, welcome. I'm a public four-year university. We are located in the US in Wisconsin, so way up north there. And I'm very excited to chat with Meredith and talk about the Common App and how that looks on your end as agents, teachers, and counselors. and advisors and kind of talk about that from the university perspective as well. All right.
I actually don't even know if I'm screen sharing or you're screen sharing, but I think I am.
Oh, did you hit next? Oh,
I think it's me. So
okay.
we're just gonna go with this.
All
We'll just
right.
see how it goes. Thank you all for working with us and the technology on multiple continents. So as it relates to Common App, you may be pretty familiar with us. We provide an online application platform where over 1 million students each year come to us from all over the world to apply to now over 1,100 member colleges and universities. Most of those are in the United States, but you'll also see that we have members in countries all over as well. We are a nonprofit membership organization, so the colleges and universities make up our membership. And we have this vision that drives us to be a trusted source for students, families, counselors, teachers, agents, everyone who is helping students with accessing post-secondary opportunities. Quick snapshot of who we are, again, across those member colleges, a mixture. We do have members in all 50 states in the US, as well as the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and then again, over 60 colleges outside the US in 15 countries. I'll show you later how you can go to our website and get a sneak peek at all of the members that are part of Common App. This gives you a sense of the colleges that are, or countries where we're receiving applications from outside the US. So we typically see like a 10%, 90% split between US students using Common App and then students outside of the US. Already this year, we've had over 1.5 million students submit at least one application on Common App. And we're looking at over 10 million applications. Again, this will carry on through the end of July when the application will close for the cycle. But really just excited to see the activity and to thank you for your support in helping your students with using the platform. I did do a quick snapshot of Japan specifically, just so you could see an example of what we see when we dive into a particular country. So this year we're looking at just over 1,000 students in Japan who have used Common App, submitted over 8,000 applications to a wide range of colleges and universities. Just showing the top 15 here for you to see. If you ever have data questions, I'm going to show you also where you can get more information. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Corinne.
Yes, hello. So, a little background on who we are. I already mentioned that we are a nonprofit, four-year public university, founded in 1916, nicknamed Wisconsin's most beautiful campus. We're embedded within the city along all our rivers and hiking trails, so we're a very outdoorsy community here. We have about 9,400 total students with about 230 international students from 44 different countries. So a pretty diverse group of international students. And we are receiving students from in all of our programs. So we have over 200 academic undergraduate programs here at Eau Claire. Some of those there are listed: AI, astrophysics, business, music, neuroscience, robotics, engineering, and more. So we are known as a healthcare university as well. So if you have students thinking about healthcare and working in that field, that is an area of expertise that we are proud to say we are leaders in. We do also have scholarships. So those do range between $3,000 and $8,000 per year, and those are based purely on their academics, their CGPA from their last school attended. Um, I know you're all probably very familiar with U.S. admissions and what kind of documents we ask for, but in general, I'm going to give you a quick overview of why universities may ask for some of these. Application fees, not all universities require these. Our university does have a small application fee, not to create another obstacle for them, but it also lets us know which students and applicants are seriously considering and are truly, genuinely interested in applying and being admitted to Eau Claire and hopefully enrolling in us. So this is just one way for us to kind of weed out those serious students from the um, students who are applying to tens, 20s of universities. The standardized test scores are great. So those English proficiency scores, the SAT, SAT, just helps us create a benchmark where we can equally compare our applicants. Um, as we all know, and GPA education systems all across the world are all very different. So it can be hard to equally compare applicants, which is why we do also like to see standardized test scores. Um, Application essays, this is really the best place for us just to know more about the applicant in general. Aside from their academics, we want to know what their goals are, what their interests, passions are, all of that, and why they want to attend our university. The extracurricular activities, there is an activities section on the Common App. I think sometimes students want to brush through and ignore that section, but for us specifically, it is very important because it helps us not only see how the applicant is contributing to the community, but it also gives us a larger picture of their interests, what they maybe might want to participate in while they're at university. And I'll talk more about that later. So that is very important. So students may think it's something they can easily skip, but they shouldn't. And then letters of recommendation. This just kind of lets us see it from another perspective. Um, the students' work ethic and who they are. So again, some of these things I feel like students want to pass up pretty quickly and just get that application submitted as quickly as possible. But it is truly important that they take the time to complete every section. So like our university, we have three different applications that students can submit. So one of those is the comment application. When meeting with students, I ask them, how many universities do you plan on applying to? If it is more than, sometimes I say if it's more than five, and they're all across the US, I say and we're all on the Common App, or most of us are on the Common App, I say submit that. That's going to be the easiest way for them to complete all of that application once and easily disperse it to multiple campuses. We also have a UW system application. We do have multiple Wisconsin campuses. So if they're only applying to Wisconsin universities, I tell them to use that one instead. Or we have our own specific university application if they plan on only applying to UW Eau Claire. For international students, that's typically not the case. So I would say at least 50% of our applicants here are using the common application. We do ask for for several different things. A lot of those are pretty easily captured on the Common App. One advantage is teachers are able to go in and actually just upload academic transcripts and records, which can be very beneficial for us as admissions counselors just to see all of those documents right away. Um, so as we're looking at students' activities, we're looking at their application essay, there are certain things that different universities are looking for. Um, we are a top undergraduate research university. Among that list is Harvard, Yale, Stanford, MIT. We are one of only three universities in the world that does have a collaborative research agreement with Mayo Clinic Health System. So we're doing a lot of research starting a student's first year on campus. We have many of our applicants or our students getting published with their faculty or Mayo Clinic researchers before they even graduate. They're getting to present at our state capitol some of their research. This is unique because many larger universities, only students at that master's or PhD level are able to do research. But here, students can start doing that right away their first year. A couple examples are we have students at currently in our neuroscience program. We have zebrafish on campus, so they're able to examine the human brain development as they do have a lot of similarities with human genes, but they grow a lot, have a shorter lifespan, so they're growing a lot faster. So we're able to look at, a lot of different experiments with the human brain in a short time frame. We also have our AI students working with Mayo Clinic researchers to figure out how can we use artificial intelligence to hopefully um, predict patient outcomes and identify, if and detect cancer earlier, so then we hopefully have a better outcome for patients. So those are a couple of things. So some places that we like to look at when students are submitting their Common App is in their essay. If they're talking about research, we're going to know they may be a great fit for us. Maybe they talk about research in their activities section as well. So those are some things that we look for, knowing that we're a research university. We want to see those students who are talking about an interest in that, also potentially for scholarships. Something else too that I like to highlight is we do have a excellent career services office on campus just to help students through the internship and career search. We have some great career counselors on campus for one-on-one meetings to help students kind of navigate their options with internships and full-time jobs, help them with resumes, cover letters, do mock interviews. We also have give them access to some online platforms. Um, so we also like to see students who are thinking ahead on their application and talking about maybe dream jobs, internships, their interest in getting that experience too. Um, One thing I do like to really highlight to students as when they are filling out the application is again, making sure they're filling out that activities list because we have a lot of student involvement opportunities on campus with over 200 clubs and organizations. So we really encourage our students to not just come to university and, study, be within their program. We also want them to be more well-rounded. So by doing that, we want students getting involved in the student club, playing a sport. Maybe they're part of our Blue Gold marching band. Maybe they're in theater. A lot of these things can also just kind of help students develop their own personal skills um, and soft skills in terms of leadership. We had just had a Malaysian student graduate who was president of our digital marketing association club, and she just actually got a job in Japan, and she'll be starting in April. So, she was able to gain those leadership skills through her club, actually, and kind of use that to help kind of segue and get her a full-time job. So, we want to see students when we're looking at applications that have an interest or already have experience getting involved because we want them to do the same when they're here on campus. I'll leave this up here for a quick moment if anyone wants to take a picture. I'm always more than happy to connect with students, give them advice on just education in the US in general. If that's specific to Eau Claire, great, but if not, I'm always more than happy to have conversations um, and talk about kind of next steps and give them advice on the application. But I will then hand it over, I believe, back to Meredith to kind of talk more about the Common App specifically.
Sounds good. And it's great to have that framing because I think as we go through the application, then we'll be able to highlight like where some of what you shared, where it's coming through in the application. So let's dive in. And I recognize that some of you are probably very well versed in Common App, and some of you this may be new. So one thing I just wanted to point out is that there are many different systems within Common App. So we have our first year application that students are using to complete the application, and it has an accompanying recommender system that counselors and teachers and other recommenders and maybe even advisors are using as a complementary system. We also have integration partners. So those are other career readiness platforms that some students may be using at certain schools. That is for again, teachers and counselors to do their form processing. Then we also have a transfer application. So for students who have some college credit already, they may use the Common App transfer application, which is a different platform, which also has different recommender types. All of these things, whether it's the first year or transfer, are packaged together as a data file that then gets delivered over to the colleges when the student submits through Common App. For the rest of this conversation, I'm really focusing in on the first year application. So your high school students or students who are applying for the first time for college, but certainly happy to answer any questions about first year or transfer. This is a sample of or a view of all of those partners that we have at schools. So you may hear or find that some of your students might be using a C Alpha or Maya Learning. And so we have this great partnerships where schools can use these platforms to send their forms to Common App, and then they get delivered to the colleges. Always start on commonapp.org for starting with the platform. You yourself, as an educator, can have a practice student account. So if you don't currently have one, I highly recommend creating one. It's a great way for you to be able to do presentations just like this with students, where you can create your own presentations. You can get screenshots. You can add similar colleges where you know your students are interested in applying to. The big thing is that you cannot submit as a practice account, and you are not seen as a prospective student for any of the colleges that you might add on your list. We also have a free mobile application. So you might find that students want to download the Common App mobile app, which they can do as well. And they can decide either use the website version, which is mobile friendly, or use the app. In August, Common App got a facelift. It got a new look and feel to it, even though the functionality did not change. So hopefully you've been in there this year to see the refresh. We basically moved from where we had a top navigation to a left side navigation, which I'm finding that many other apps are also moving in that direction. But this is what students see. They land in the Common App in the dashboard, and then they're able to go now and go where they need to. So they might go into the apply section. That's where they're going to find My Common Application, which we're going to talk about, as well as their colleges and My Colleges. And then they can also do exploration, and that's where they'll see the college search. So they can add colleges to their list. They'll learn about direct admissions. And also we have information about financial aid. When students get to the My Common Application section, again, they're going to see these 7 different sections where they will share more about themselves. So there's a profile section, a family section, education, testing, activities, writing, and then courses and grades. Students can bounce around to different sections to answer questions. Also note, very important, that not all questions are required. So sometimes there are questions that are not relevant for a student, and it is okay if they do not answer a question that is optional. Just help them. If they have questions, you can help them with deciding to answer or not answer a question. We also know that students have questions, and so we have 24/7. We are available, our support team, any time of day. So even if a student were in there now, if they sent in a request to our support team, they would get a response back. So always, always available. If you are working with Education USA or your students work with Education USA, that is something that students can actually include in their applications. In the education section, there's a section called community-based organizations, and their Education USA is actually in that list. So if your students do any workshops or have any contact, I definitely encourage them to mention Education USA in that section. I know that we talked about the standardized testing. So in the testing section, there's a variety of tests that students can choose to report if they want. So SAT or ACT, there could be advanced placement, international baccalaureate, Cambridge. If students previously had taken a subject test for the SAT, we also collect various English language proficiency test scores. So Cambridge, Duolingo, the IELTS, the PTE, and TOEFL. So students choose what they want to share. However, they also will be asked to send official score reports to the colleges that they're applying to. We still have the majority of colleges that are test optional, meaning they do not require tests. So just keep that in mind for your students. Still, encourage them to look at what colleges are saying, but note, at least on Common App, that we are over 1,000 of our members that do not require testing. Corinne, do you want to say anything about test optional?
Yeah, absolutely. UW Eau Claire is test optional. So really since COVID hit, we've been test optional. We do still encourage students, especially if they are applying to multiple universities. Odds are at least one of them are going to require one of these standardized tests. So I always encourage students, if they are happy with their score, they think it's a good representation of who they are as a student, I still encourage them to submit that. Um, that's just an easy, if they aren't sure if they should submit it or not, I always encourage them to reach out to the admissions offices of the universities they're applying to just to ask, and we can be pretty honest with them on if we'd recommend they submit their test score or not.
Great. And within Common App, students can pick and choose for colleges. So it's not like you have to submit your scores to every college. You can decide as a student if you want to submit to some schools and not to others. My colleges is the section where students go to submit to specific colleges. So whereas my common application is about them, my colleges is where the colleges are asking their own questions. So this is where students go to answer those questions. This is also where they complete the FERPA release authorization, which is Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's basically giving the student permission for colleges to receive academic records and letters of recommendation from the schools to the colleges and universities. So once students sign that FERPA release, then they can invite their counselor and teachers to submit, again, those academic records and school forms. Once the student has answered all of their My Common Application questions and the college-specific questions, then they're ready to submit their application, and they do that here on My Colleges. Sometimes A college will also have an additional writing supplement. So sometimes students just need to be aware that there's a second submission within an individual college. When it comes to that invitation, as I mentioned, it will be in my colleges in the recommenders and FERPA section, which students can actually get to in any of the colleges on their list. They sign FERPA, and then they'll see 4 different recommender types. So counselor, teacher, other recommender, and then advisor. Most colleges do not require letters of recommendation at this point from counselors or teachers, but the students will always invite one counselor. And sometimes we know for international students, there's not a traditional counselor role. It could be a head of school. It could be a registrar, someone who has access to their academic, again, transcript or record. Sometimes it's the same person who's the counselor and the teacher, and that is okay. And you do not have to have to send the same letter. So I would love, again, Corinne, for you to maybe talk about when you see it's the same person as the counselor and teacher and any advice you have with that.
Yeah. I we don't find any concern with the teacher and the counselor being the same. We also are very understanding and very aware of the fact that a lot of schools may not even have a counseling office. So that is okay to have, for us at least, to have both. Um, that's not something we'll ever question. In terms of just like letters of recommendation in general, even if schools don't um, require those, I always still encourage students to have a counselor, teacher, both submit something because it can only help in this case with the admissions process on our end. The more information we have, the better to make an informed decision on their admission. So um, yeah, no issue with the counselor versus teacher being the same person.
Great. Uh, the blue box here is just that call out again that you might find that some students are at schools that have these other college and career platforms. And if that's the case, then Common App is smart and tells the student that they have to invite their counselor and teachers outside of the Common App. It will actually block them. But if you are using the Common App recommendation system, then this does not apply. Okay, so once the students do that invitation for counselors and teachers within the application, it kicks off an invitation by email to the counselor or teacher to say, please log into the recommender system. And that's where then you have access to do all of your uploading of records and transcripts and letters of recommendation. Uh, the system is pretty robust in what you can do. So you can see a lot of the students' progress within the recommender system. Um, you can see how far along they are in those 7 different sections of the My Common application. You can also preview their application, even if they haven't submitted yet. You can see their responses if you are in there as a counselor or as an advisor. You cannot see their application like responses if you are logged in as a teacher. So keep that in mind. Some other things to note is that counselors will see all of the colleges on a student's list. Teachers will only see the colleges that the student has assigned them to. So some colleges, again, do not accept any teacher letters. So the student would not, or yeah, the teacher would not see a college that doesn't accept any letters of recommendation. Also, sometimes a student might have 2 teachers that they've invited to be recommenders, but a college is only accepting one letter. And so the student has to choose which of those two teachers will submit that letter. So again, just note that as a teacher, you may not see the student's full college list. Only the counselor and the advisor can see the full college list. Other things you can do, there are filters. You can export information to Excel if you want to see things within data. Back to that whole, some people can be in there in multiple roles. Your student can use the same email address for you. So you can be invited as a counselor and as a teacher or advisor with using one email address. We do have something called one and done with Common App recommender forms, which means you're not customizing your letters for different colleges. You're writing a letter of recommendation about the student, not about the college. So once you submit one time, it will go to whichever colleges the student has assigned you to. This is a list of the various forms. So there's the school profile, school report, early decision agreement if a student's applying early decision, a fee waiver form if a student is requesting an application fee waiver, counselor recommendation. There's the optional report 1 and 2. Again, only that's completely optional. There's a mid-year report, final report. All of those are reports that the counselor sees. Then there's a separate teacher evaluation and then a separate other evaluation for those other recommenders. We do have letter writing guides on our website if you need any resources on letter writing. We also have a resource on developing a school profile. And I think it's great that in maybe a day or two, you all are having a more in-depth conversation about letters of recommendation and school profiles. This just shows you for the teacher side what the teacher has to do. So in addition to just providing personal details and information about the school, then the teacher, you are also asked to share your subject area and then where you how you rate the student if you choose to do academic ratings. So different scales for things like their academic achievement, perhaps their creativity, and giving them an overall evaluation. All right, I'm going to pass it back to you just for some tips.
Okay, make sure I'm not on mute. Yeah, so a few things that I really like to hone in to students as I'm talking to them about how to start the application process, how to apply, where to apply, how much time to spend on their application and in which sections. The first thing I always like to tell students is to look beyond the rankings. Again, there are over 5,000 US universities, over 1,000 of them on the Common App. So take the time to help to find the perfect fit. So as you're also working with students, try to have conversations and talk to them about what is their learning style, what are their goals at university. Some students want to just go and play, a sport. Some want to be in a specific major. Again, maybe some want to do research. So try to have those conversations and really get students to start thinking about what they need in a university, and what kind of support they need, what they want, and so they can really start doing that research and finding a university that is going to support them through everything that they're hoping to accomplish in their 4 years. At university. Again, we also do encourage students, yes, we know that the applications, when those are opening and students are trying to submit applications, work on application essays, ask teachers and counselors for letters of recommendation, all while studying and taking exams in their year 12, is we want students to take the time with the application. Try to answer every question as Meredith mentioned, they are more than welcome to just go through and answer those required questions and skip through those optional ones. But I still do encourage them to look through those optional questions and answer them if they think it can positively impact their application in any way. Again, the more we know about a student when we're looking at their application, the better, and the more of an informed decision we can make. Um, and, so that's something we really try to encourage students. Start the application early, right when it opens, so then they have more time before the deadline to work on that and perfect it before hitting submit. Um, Another thing too, again, I think the least favorite part of the application process for students is probably the application essays. Meredith mentioned that some universities have an additional second application essay, and that we are one of those universities that does require a second application essay. Um, I try to just tell students keep it short and simple. Um, we read thousands of essays a year. We've heard the same stories, we've heard the same essay openers, conclusions over and over again. So encourage your students to think about what makes them unique. Make sure they're bragging about themselves as well. It is very unnatural for anyone to talk and very, very highly of themselves, but this is the place to do it. Tell us about something they're proud of that they've accomplished or that they're hoping to accomplish. Just try to make sure the students are having a little fun with their essay. If they're having fun, that personality is going to come through their essay, and we're going to be able to also feel that energy on the other side when we're reading that essay. Something else is one, as you're talking with students, I think it's a great first step that they are talking with you as a counselor, agent, or advisor. Um, but we also encourage them to talk to us admissions counselors. It is our job, happily our job to talk with students. Again, I love having conversations with students and talking to them and figuring out again what their perfect university would be. Um, I even if they're not interested in my university, I still want to talk to them and help them find the right fit. And so instead of just, staying in, looking on the website for all of our scholarship information, our admissions, we want them to connect with us and build those relationships, because it's really going to help them start and have a good connection with the universities that they're applying to, and just start with their positive experience. So, yes, they can be shy, but try to push them to ask us all questions, and start making those relationships. All
Love
right.
those. Yeah, those are such great tips. We definitely want to make sure that we leave time for questions. So I want you to know that when that we will share these slides so that you have the ability to go back and review them. And there's a whole section that has tools for you. Um, so it talks about how to use our Explore page. If you want data, you can go onto our website. Um, Account rollover is just so you know that students can create their account at any time and they can actually start working in the application. So if you are working with year 11 students, they can get in there, start filling out some of those profile questions, education questions. Um, they just want to wait until after August 1st, when the cycle changes into their year 12, to do the college information. If you help them with essays, we have announced that our essay prompts are not changing. So what they see in the application now does remain the same. So we have these 7 different prompts for them. Again, you can read more about that. If you want to give them those like quick little tutorials, we have on our YouTube channel, quick overviews of what we know are the most, one, just a general overview of the first year application. And then where students spend the most time is the essay. and the activity section. So we have videos for that. We also have one on the recommender system. CommonApp.org/advisors is our hub for counselor and advisor resources. It's where you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. You can request a map visual of all of the colleges. You can get to those guides for letter writing and just more resources. We also have student handouts that you can also get to. I mentioned we're 24/7 support. One of the things I'll call out here is the writing requirements resource. You can actually go on our website and look up for every college what their essay requirements are and and if they have additional writing, what those prompts are. Obviously, we will update that after August 1st for next year's class. And then just stay connected with us. We will continue to have more counselor and advisor trainings. And we have previous recordings as well. And I know that Corinne already shared her contact information, but sharing mine as well. And now we will see what questions you have and how we can answer them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Is local Japanese schools, including public schools, private schools, international schools, are they considered international school under the school profile?
Got it. So the way that the language, and actually one of the slides had it, but the way that it's presented is asking whether or not it's based on the curriculum in terms of if it's a US based type curriculum like an advanced placement, international baccalaureate, or if the student has to do any type of leaving exam. So if the student has to do a national leaving exam in order to graduate or get a diploma, then they are supposed to say yes to the international supplement. If they do not have to do a leaving exam in order to graduate within your country, the answer is no.
Most of these I think are going to be for you, Meredith, so I'll read the questions. Um, in the future, is there a consideration of a new function to keep track of each school application status of accepted or not accepted?
Ooh, I love that one. One day, I hope
One.
also that we would be able to share that information. At this time, Common App does not collect admission decisions. So However, we do have an ideas portal, and if that's something that you would like to see, which we know we have heard in the past that it would be helpful. Interestingly, we currently do ask students to self-report now each year where they're letting us know where they've gotten into, but it's not currently connected to sharing that information out with counselors or teachers.
Mhm. What is the difference between a school profile and a school report?
Yeah, so the school report is a form. That is actually the form where counselors are uploading the academic record or transcript. Part of the school report form is a section called a school profile. So there are fields in the school profile where you're talking about how many students are in your school, how many are in the graduating class, what are the demographics of the students. And then it gives you the option to upload a school profile. So a lot of high schools will have, it's almost like a cover letter that comes with the transcript. And it just gives the colleges, again, additional context to learn about the school community. So, yeah, anything, Corinne, you'd want to add about what you get from receiving school profiles?
Yeah. The school profiles can be very helpful when we're looking at, especially if we're getting applicants from schools that we've never received applicants from before. It can just really kind of give us an idea without having to dig through the website on the curriculum, on um, like kind of even like average test scores at your school, things like that. So it can just kind of help us as university get context into what curriculum and what kind of high school a student is currently studying at. So we do love to see those, which I think is one of the advantages of the Common App is asking for those profiles where our specific one does not. So that can just be very useful for us as admissions officers to know what we're looking at. Mhm. We have a school. Our school is part of a large private school organization called Round Square. Is that considered a community-based organization on the Common App?
Got it. Yeah. So the question about community-based organizations is asking students, have you worked with any um, organizations that have provided you with free college support in your application process? So I don't think that Round Square would fit what it's trying to get at in terms of a college access program. My guess is that either within the counselor letter of recommendation or the school profile that you as the counselor are talking about that network there, but the student is not necessarily talking about that in the community-based organization question.
Perfect. All right, we got a couple more here. All right. So could we share some common mistakes that Japanese teachers tend to make when writing recommendation letters? So for example, in the US, students also typically receive metrics like top 10%, class ranking, more quantitative indicators of achievement. However, in Japan, teachers do not usually use this kind of objective numerical evaluation. Does this make it more difficult for us to access or assess applicants? And if so, are there any specific points you would like Japanese teachers to improve? That's a great question. I personally do not love all of the quantitative metrics that we do receive from our US students. So again, we are one of those campuses that does a holistic review of applications. So we actually prefer not to have um, those quantitative indicators. So no, I don't think that's what we're looking for. That is not something that you need to try to change at your school to provide more of those indicators. Instead, I would say that's kind of where the letters of recommendation, essay, those things, even school profiles can really help admissions officers kind of gauge and get some context into the student and the benchmarks. So especially if we're on the school profile, knowing um, average test scores or the average tests in some of these larger classes, that can kind of give us an idea where the student lays, if they're above average or right in the middle. So no, I don't think that's it. I think we'd much rather hear more about from you as recommenders about any specific student achievements that they've done or work ethic. I think that's more, yeah, more what we're looking at. Yes. All right. Course levels. Regarding course levels, our classification system differs significantly from that of the US, which makes it difficult to determine equivalent levels, particularly in math. How, or do you have any recommendations on how we should handle this? That's a
Yeah, I mean, I can,
curriculum.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I can
go for it.
start with this
Yeah.
because I think that, and I think it would be helpful for you to chime in as well on the receiving end. Within the Common App, when students are either sharing their current year courses or for schools that require courses and grades, if they put the name of their course, it's then asking them, is this at a regular level or advanced or accelerated? And there's all these different options. And the students want to make sure that they select the most representative and also selectivity, I guess, like level of challenge, but it doesn't actually, like the wording might not say accelerated, right, in their course. And so how do we assure them that it's okay? That like the system is there to give them as much flexibility to report on their courses without them stressing that the colleges are going to still get their record and review the record appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like how, like when you see a student, how they've reported their courses, but then you're looking at the actual record.
Mm-hmm.
What do we need to help with, like assuring students that you're seeing all of it and making an assessment holistically?
Yeah. And I think for some of those subjects, English, mathematics, a lot of us US universities have placement tests in place where students take those to ensure that they're starting in the right level of English and or mathematics at university. So we do have some of those benchmarks just to kind of help catch some of those irregularities. So if there ever is a question on classification too, we can always accept any class descriptions or anything like that, just so we have clarification on the course at hand. Okay, and then how should students choose their recommenders, especially teachers' recommendation? I always tell students somebody that actually truly knows you. So I encourage students to be they don't always listen, right? But I encourage them to start building those relationships with teachers pretty early on, with them knowing that in the future they're going to be asking them to write them a letter of recommendation. So we want these, we students should choose them based on what teachers have seen their accomplishments, who has really kind of maybe even seen you struggle and get past an obstacle. It cannot just be a teacher that you haven't really had any conversations with. It should be someone that they've had a good like teacher-student relationship with, who really truly can confidently write about the student to the university and best represent the student in that letter. Okay. Yeah, and then
You
could
want
you
to
clarify what you meant by school leaving tests that you mentioned earlier in regards to the question about whether local Japanese schools are considered as international school under the profile?
Yeah, and again, this might be one that, Corinne, that you might be
Yeah.
able to use examples of like where you do see it most frequently from certain countries, or certain
Mhm.
schools. I don't know if you have examples.
Yeah. Um, I would say more definitely like Southeast Asian countries for sure. Is where we see the school leaving test the most. Um, for example, I'm thinking India, they have to take that year 12 exam in order to officially graduate and be completed with high school. So that is typically like one of those their leaving exam that they take upon graduation before they are able to receive their diploma.
Yeah, and one of the chats that we did recently within Common App, we actually specifically talked about the international counselor and recommender experience, and we did go into this topic a little bit more in depth. So when you get these slides, or if you want to reach out to me, there is an additional part um, where we show the question that counselors see within the recommender system, um, as well as the student experience. And then just, yeah, so you can like explore that. And also, if you have a practice account, you can also see what those questions are. Um, but yes, happy to like dive into that if you want to reach out and you have additional, just so you're not sure. But the majority of students say no and counselors say no, that there is not a leaving exam. But again, if a country has that requirement that a student cannot get their diploma unless they pass a certain exam. That's when the international supplement comes in.
Mhm. Great. I think we got through them.
Thank you so much, Meredith and Corinne. It was very informative, very helpful. And thank you, everybody, for the good questions as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, and then we can answer further questions, and then let's study more about common application together. Well, thank you very much for everyone again, and I hope you all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.